following program is sponsored by The Greek, Ely's Radio Shack dealer at 570 Altman in downtown Ely, and brought to you as a public service by Georgetown Media in Ely, Nevada. White Pine County Tourism Recreation Board meeting, April 27th, 2021.
Board to order. This is Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, 4 p.m. Kyle, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Gladly. All right, everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll have a roll call. I believe the only board member that is not present is Brian Boringer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. This time, item number 3, public comment. Is there any public comment in the room?
Yes. We have Wayne, and I'm going to turn our camera around and the microphone. So.
Yeah, just a couple of items. We'd definitely like to invite you guys.
Could he get closer, Kyle? We can't hear him on the Zoom.
Can you now?
Even Wayne, if you want, can you please sit down, maybe?
Sit down?
Just sit down and
Wow,
right,
that's right.
please. Thank you.
Make yourself comfortable,
Make
Wayne.
yourself at home, Wayne.
Okay. Yeah, we'd just like to invite you guys to the tour of the new judicial facility tomorrow at noon. We're going to meet at the car parking lot. Invite you to the meet and greet tomorrow night, which Caroline, you've already signed up for. And it's 6 o'clock tomorrow night at the Convention Center. And we'd like to have the chairman of the Tour and Rec or a representative to the Chamber Board speak at the meet and greet using the public comment time limit. And then a couple other things. Since we've had the weekend coverage over there in March, on the weekend we've had 7 visitors. In April, it increased to 24 visitors on Saturday and Sunday. So it's picking up. That's it.
All right.
Thank you, Wayne. Is there any other public comment at the Bristlecone Convention Center? And if so, would you kindly take a seat and look right into, speak into the microphone?
And you can move that up too, George, if you want to.
That's fine, thank you. Madam Chairman, I'm repeating my concern regarding the Airbnbs. I've not seen any licensing, no rezone request, no special use permit, no home occupation application or approval. Again, someone's not doing their job. Commissioner Bullis needs to account for those in the county, and Councilman Kurt Carson needs to account for those in the city. And you, Madam Chairman, have to account for both city and county. Unfortunately, you're all failing. It's been more than a year. Madam Chairman, I've yet to see any reports from those that have received monies through aid organization grants from the Tour and Rec Board. The reports are required so that tracking and progress can be evaluated and assessed. Are the organizations failing to comply? If so, all funding needs to be denied and stopped until compliance is made. We're going through this year after year and still no progress. Madam Chairman, last December 22nd, 2020, I asked why the Tour and Rec Board paid $188.50 to Ely Rotary for dues. As of this date, I've not received an answer, and I'm requesting an answer. Madam Chairman, at your board meeting held last December 22nd, 2020, I stated that I have not seen anything presented to this board regarding the possibilities of a ski resort or ski area possibilities that Commissioner Bullis talked about and solicited. The board approved expenses for Mr. Bullis' acquaintance to come from California to make the assessment. I'm not aware of anyone presenting the findings to the Tour and Rec Board. If a report was made, I would like a copy. If nothing was provided, I want to know why and how did we justify the monies expended. Madam Chairman, I've not received any information in regards to the fact or non-fact, if any board member sits on the railroad management board. Again, this is months old, if not a year. Madam Chairman, I'm asking that the Tourism Rec Board takes a stand against locating a park near Love's truck stop. National studies state that you do not build or place a park near a truck stop. Locally, we have a schoolgirl that went missing back on April 4th, 2003. Just recently, we had an incident where a truck driver enticed in some way or abducted a young person, assaulted that young girl and then abandoned her on the road north of McGill from what I've heard. Luckily, she wasn't murdered, and luckily for her, a local person saw the young girl and the truck driver leave together and reported to the sheriff's office. We need to learn from these experiences and safeguard that it does not happen again. NRS states that you cannot have gaming or liquor within 1,000 feet of a school. The city and the county are failing miserably in staying within compliance with the state law. That needs to be addressed. Madam Chairman, I've not received any information in regards to my request in the past.
That's 3 minutes. Thank you, George.
I'll be back.
Thank you, George. Is there any more public comment in the Bristol Home Convention Center?
We do not see any.
Seeing none? Okay, thank you. How about online? Is there any public comment online? Maureen, is that you?
Yes, so I don't have any public comments right now.
Okay, well, thank you and welcome, Maureen.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to item number 4, new business. Number A, discussion and for possible action, approval of agenda, including removal of agenda items. Do any board members have any changes to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Marietta has moved and Kurt has seconded the motion to approve the agenda as posted. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, discussion and for possible action, approval of minutes from March 23rd, 2021. Are there any corrections that board members have seen on these minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for acceptance.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 23rd, 2021, as presented.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ian. It's been moved by Marietta and seconded by Ian that the minutes from March 23rd, 2021 will be approved. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you. Discussion only. Review of the financial report. Is that somebody beeping, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where that beep's coming from. It seems to be following the yellow bar on whoever's like chiming in to talk. So maybe during the presentation we just all mute ourselves and see if it continues. See what happens.
Maureen, I think it could be your phone or somewhere near that because it seems to have.
I turned it off.
Okay, well, thank you so much. So we'll all go on mute while you present, Kyle.
Okay. All right. Thumbs up if you can hear me. We'll go ahead and we'll go with the room tax collected. So the room tax report. And so what you'll see, kind of bottom line here, is the tax collected for the hotels and motels totaled $134,065.86. That includes the city Airbnbs. And the RV parks and campgrounds totaled $4,548.68. So the total receipts for room tax collected was $138,614.54. So how the disbursement went is the golf course received $1,762.50. The city of Ely received $24,200.61. The railroad received $20,535.49, and Tour and Rec deposited to our budget $88,265.54. And so if you look at the room tax comparison report, which is this one right here, what you'll see is we're actually, compared to this time last year, we were up 33%. Last year was our first kind of beginning of the hit of COVID. So what we did is we looked back to the year prior to that one and saw how much room tax we collected in March that year. And what that shows is that we're actually 3% up this month compared to this time 2 years ago pre-COVID. So up a whole bunch because of COVID, but if we were looking at more of an apples to apples comparison with a non-COVID year, we're 3% above where we were at that year. So still showing growth in the room tax collected in March. What I want to go over now is the budget year to date and kind of explain some things that in regards to the augmentation. So last month we had our meeting where we went through some augmentation recommendations, and when we actually got into implementing it, we saw that with the Rec Brothers bill, with some East River bills that hadn't been accounted for yet, the IMBA grant match that we had to go ahead and do, Jeff and I decided to wait a month to see what our actuals were going to be at the end of this month. So when you're looking at this this year-to-date budget, this is not the augmented budget. So this is kind of how it stands currently if we didn't do a single augmentation. But why that's important is when we do the augmentation, we're going to change what we had budgeted for in some of these items that are over, like internet connection, building maintenance and repair, marketing, you know, all of that stuff. But what we're seeing here is this $53,074.08 operating deficit that we have now because of all those bills that came in. One of the things that we had agreed on was pulling money out of savings to cover that, but I don't think we have to. Looking at this now in hindsight, we've got the $100,000 that we budgeted for in the fund balance that we've brought nothing over from that yet. That essentially was what we were saying we may take out of savings. So what the board needs to decide is yes, we need to augment certain line items as we agreed upon them to make our percentages look correct. But when it comes to pulling money out of savings, we can either, one of two options, we can either pull over money out of the fund balance that we budgeted for and bring that back to the positive, or we can assume that the next 3 months of room tax and profit from these next 3 months will cover this $53,000 deficit right here. And I'm hoping I'm explaining this clearly, because I mean Jeff and I had to go over it a couple times to think about the options. But the bottom line is I don't think we need to pull money out of savings. In fact, I'm confident we don't need to pull money out of savings. What I would like to do is we still need to augment the budget, but my recommendation is when we decide what date we're going to do our final budget hearing on, we also have an item in that agenda for an augmented budget as well. They're not connected to each other, but I figure while we're coming together, we might as well hit those two things at the same time. And make a decision on, do we keep that $100,000 that we budgeted for in the fund balance? Do we just not touch that and let our room tax collection cover that deficit going into the end of the year? Or do we go ahead and pull that money over and just cover that deficit right now, and then the rest of the money for the year will just be windfall? This is not an item that we're voting on, so this is just food for thought. And like I said, when we do our final budget hearing in May, I would like to go ahead and put an augmentation on as an agenda item at that time and go ahead and have the board decide what they want to do. But I felt like if we went ahead and augmented things last month and then all of this stuff came in, we were probably going to be doing another augmentation at the last second. I wanted to try to avoid doing it twice. So, does anybody have any questions, clarifications, things like that? it's a good thing. We're not, I mean, we've got plenty of money, it's just deciding when we wanna move it around in our budget, so that we only have to do it one time.
So, Kyle, we're not making any decisions today, but just seeking input if any members have any questions or can reach out to you for a further explanation.
Correct.
And then we will take care in an agenda item when we have the public hearing on May 12th, correct?
Correct. And to give information that's more relevant to now, the line items that were overspent, that we augmented last time, are still the only ones that are there. There's no more items that have gone over what we had budgeted for. And the other thing too that we need to look at is we're now approaching or over what we budgeted for in green tax collection as well. We're at 99% for the city, we're at 102% for the county. So, you know, part of me says we're gonna make this 53,000 back in just our profits, but again, that's a little bit of a riskier approach or more of a gamble than just taking that money out of the fund balance and moving it over and covering what those additional expenses were for those 3 items that I mentioned earlier. So anyway, again, food for thought, we're not making a decision now, but I just wanted to explain why the budget that you're looking at does not have any of the augmented numbers that we talked about last meeting, and the explanation is because I think we can have a better augmentation looking at the actuals now than we did back then.
Okay, thank you. Again, we'll be addressing this with an action item on May 12th. Okay, let's move on to D, discussion and for possible action, ratify the bills. And I want to disclose that I have an interest in Bath Lumber and I will not be voting on this item, I'll be abstaining. Are there any questions on the bills? I did go through and check them and met with Kyle on ones that I was uncertain about today and feel good about the bills as they are. Any questions from any of the board members? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we pay checks 10269 through 10307 minus the Bath Lumber bill, is $444,064.69.
There a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kurt. It's moved by Marietta and seconded by Kurt. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And 1 abstention, Judy. Thank you. All right, we will move on to item E, discussion and for possible action. Well, I guess I could have voted on that one, sorry. Approval to build Bath Lumber. And again, I want to disclose that I do have an interest in Bath Lumber.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we pay check 10283 to Bath Lumber in the amount of $393,092.
There a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Marietta and seconded by Kurt. All in favor, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And 1 abstention, Judy. All right, let's move on to discussion only, tentative budget for fiscal year 21-22.
Okay.
And is there any paperwork in here?
I have a screen share for the group, and so I'm gonna go ahead and pull up an Excel to kind of show what I've been working on from the recommendations that the board made last time. So while I'm bringing this up, I will say I got a call from Department of Taxation today. Evelyn saw our agenda with the date that we had proposed. She reminded me that that was in last year's date range, and that this year's date range is May 17th through 31st. So when we set our date, it's going to have to be between the 17th and 31st. But let me pull this up here. Okay, can everybody see that? Can everybody see the screen share?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the last recommendation of the board was to still show that we were down and to try to show a cut, but whereas we cut 17% going into COVID, the consensus last meeting is maybe cut only 8% from a regular year. So what you have, and I'm gonna go ahead and follow my cursor, you've got the budget that we had pre-COVID, the budget here in the middle that was passed for our 17% COVID budget, and these are the numbers that I've been working so far with the change in totals for this year. So we'll start at the top. For the room tax for the city and county, what we're showing is, that right here is the increase, where you can see the 127,575 is an increase from the COVID year, but still a decrease from our regular year. And so that's true with the county room tax. We're showing an increase from COVID, but still not being back up to pre-COVID standards. With grant reimbursement, we went ahead and increased that, seeing how we're getting significantly more grants. And then in the miscellaneous, we went ahead and lowered that because that's based off of actuals of what happened this year. If you go down into our expense category, we budgeted for an increase in pay. Nobody had a pay increase during COVID, and so staff at all levels is due for that. So Jeff and I calculated what it would be for, the hourly rate increase, plus what would the impact be on the benefits to Tour and Rec. So what you're seeing in this line here and this line here, both are the pay and the benefit impact, where it shows an increase for that. Now if you kind of go down more into the meat and potatoes, I'm proposing a $5,000 increase from last year in Tour and Rec events, and so these would be events that we're putting on and new events that we're nurturing. Based off of actuals, I showed a decrease in travel and promotion. In postage, excuse me, travel and promotion stayed the same from last year. A decrease in postage, that's based off of actuals. Internet connection, we're showing an increase. Again, that's based off of this year's actuals. For custodial and laundry services, I went ahead and lowered that a little bit. Again, looking at the pre-COVID year so that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot looking at custodial services when we were having no events, but what our actual expenses were when we were having events. This is where it kind of gets a little bit more impactful down here. So this next one is the grant advertising and reimbursements. That matches what we were proposing in the income. So that balances out right there. Our community marketing campaign, I'm proposing a $15,000 increase, but we augmented a $15,000 increase. So again, that's not asking for more money for marketing, that's asking for the exact same amount of money that we used for marketing this year. For consulting services, upping that back up even higher than pre-COVID because we are doing more PR work. Our bookkeeping comes out of this and everything like that. So that would be an increase up to $50,000, and that actually kind of plays in again with our actuals of where it's at this year. And then you get down into the grants. The $55,000 I based off of what we've done for the last 3 years. The $60,000 is based off of what we've done for the last 3 years. And then the $80,000 is based off of the $79,000 that you dedicated for aid to organization grants just a few months ago when we were awarding those. So that you've already decided that $80,000 is what you're wanting to put into there. What you'll notice though is that the capital improvement grant is now its own separate line item because our auditor had requested that to be separated from capital outlay, where in the past we just had capital outlay and everybody's capital improvement projects were part of that. This year, per their recommendation, capital improvement grants is its own line item, and then if you go down, capital outlay is its own line item, and that would be our capital improvement projects. So what I'm proposing for next year, because our parking lot is done. We are still gonna be doing some technology upgrades. We got a quote for our bathroom upgrades in the back to make them ADA accessible, which was $20,000 a bathroom. And so I'm figuring, you know, in this next year, we still wanna do some facility improvements. It's not gonna be as expensive as last year. So $50,000 would cover both bathroom upgrades and then about another $10,000 in facility improvements. And so if you take all of that, and if you go down here to the disbursements, these would be, if based off of, if our projected incomes for city and county come true, this would be what the railroad, the city of Ely, the golf course, what they would get in their reimbursement. So with the budget as it is right now, it's showing an operational surplus of $40,000, which is good, which is what we want to show, but it also shows that we've got some room to play with as well in this final budget hearing. So pretty much all this is I took what everybody's kind of recommendations were, the conversations that I've had, kind of your goals for what you want to accomplish in this next year, and just try to plug it into this sheet and still make it come out as an operational surplus. So again, this is just discussion only, but I asked the board if you see anything, if you could email it to me or write it down, and then we can go ahead and discuss this in our final budget hearing. But you know, it still shows the proper decrease from a non-COVID year while still accounting for the fact that we're going to be growing next year, and so our room tax and our expenses kind of show that. Is there any questions? And I can go ahead and I'll email this out to the board so you can look at this over the next month and kind of make notes and mark things up. But again, you know where my office is, and if you've got any concerns or questions, the door's always open.
It's looking good, Kyle, thank you.
All right, thank
Any
you.
other questions or comments? Okay, and Kyle, I think you mentioned that the paid clients for the Bristlecone Convention Center are picking up?
They are picking up. In fact, the entire month of May is booked. So we have we'll have our normal summertime lull, which is expected, but as soon as September hits, September, October, November, December is all booked up again. So I think we're going to have a pretty good year in regards to center events. But if you go back up to the top and look at it, I still have center events at the 37.5, which I think, looking at our actuals, would still be a little bit of an increase, because right now we're at 21,000 in center events revenue going into the last 3 months of the fiscal. So 37 is still pretty modest compared to a non-COVID year, but it still shows an increase from what we did last year.
And as everyone recalls, our budget for last year, we slashed it by 17%. The overall, not every item, but it came out to 17% reduction, and so thankfully it was not that severe. And then we agree on an 8% cut this year just to be safe?
That was the benchmark that we started at, yeah.
Okay, so all right, and if this will give everyone a chance to look through this document before our special meeting, or our meeting is with the public hearing and the augmentation. So we'll move to G, discussion and for possible action, approval of the special budget hearing on Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. As Kyle has just said, the Department of Taxation changed those dates this year, and so it's between the 17th and the 31st, which means we could actually have the public hearing on our meeting date, which would be the 25th. Does that sound agreeable to everyone, so we don't have an extra meeting?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
You guys really don't want to come on another
Is that
Tuesday?
okay with you?
That sounds great to me.
Okay, and Kyle, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I was just saying, you sure you guys
Just
don't want to come?
cracking jokes.
There's cracking jokes, nothing important.
Okay,
Thanks,
all right.
Ian. Somebody gets me.
We'll go ahead for a motion to approve the special budget hearing on Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 during our regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Ian and seconded by Kurt. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and item